The crystalline chamber stretched higher than any cathedral on Earth, its walls carved from a single asteroid that floated in the darkness between stars. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the center of a circular platform, surrounded by 3,000 alien representatives from across the galaxy. Their forms varied wildly. Some floated as clouds of gas. Others stood on multiple legs or no legs at all. A few existed as pure energy, contained within geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. Above Marcus, 7 massive holographic figures materialized. These were the high judges of the Galactic Council, beings so ancient that humanity's entire existence was barely a footnote in their history. Their forms shifted and pulsed with colors that had no names in human language. The largest of the judges spoke first. Its voice came through every translator simultaneously, creating an effect that felt less like sound and more like a thought placed directly into Marcus's brain. The species known as human stands accused of 47 violations of the Preservation Treaty, unauthorized military expansion, illegal colonization of restricted zones, and most seriously, the destruction of Council Enforcer Fleet Commander Vexthal and his entire squadron of 30 warships. A ripple of sound moved through the assembled aliens. Some made clicking noises. Others released pheromones that Marcus's suit translated as expressions of shock and disapproval. The death of a Council Enforcer was unprecedented in living memory for most species present. Marcus kept his hands clasped behind his back. His posture relaxed despite the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon him. He had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. 6 months learning Council protocols, studying their laws, understanding their power structure. Earth's entire future depended on how he handled the next few hours. Ambassador Webb, another judge spoke, this one appearing as a being of living crystal that chimed like wind through glass. Your species has been part of this council for merely 63 standard cycles. You possess no advanced weapons technology, no psionic abilities, no natural defenses beyond your physical form. Yet you dare to challenge species that have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. How do you answer these charges? Marcus took a single step forward. The movement was small, economical, but several nearby alien representatives actually flinched backward. He had noticed this reaction before during diplomatic meetings. Something about human movement made other species nervous, though they tried to hide it. High judges, honored representatives, Marcus began, his voice calm and clear. I stand here not to beg for mercy or make excuses. I'm here to provide context that your investigation has completely missed. Missed? The first judge's form pulsed with what the translator interpreted as anger. We have examined every data stream, every sensor recording, every witness testimony. Commander Vexthal traveled to your illegal colony on New Horizon to enforce council law. Your people fired upon his ships without warning or provocation. There is no context that justifies such barbarism. Then you haven't asked the right questions, High Judge? Marcus pulled a small data crystal from his pocket and held it up. I request permission to present evidence. The 7 judges flickered in synchronized patterns, communicating in ways Marcus couldn't perceive. Finally, the crystal being spoke again. We will allow your evidence. But understand this, human. If you are wasting the Council's time with delay tactics, the punishment for your homeworld will be severe. Earth could be quarantined for the next millennium. Your species restricted to your own solar system, forbidden from touching the stars. Marcus inserted the crystal into the central pedestal. Holographic displays erupted throughout the chamber, preparing to show footage from New Horizon Colony, but before the playback could begin, every alarm in the chamber screamed to life. Red emergency lights flooded the space. The High Judge's forms destabilized, flickering wildly. Through the transparent sections of the asteroid walls, massive warships materialized from quantum space. Their design was unmistakable, elegant, and deadly, bearing the markings of the Catharn supremacy. The Catharn were the Council's most powerful military force. Their empire spanned 400 star systems. Their technology was centuries beyond most other species, and their ambassador was now rising from his observation platform. his 8-foot-tall form covered in chitinous armor that gleamed under the emergency lights. "Hi, judges," Ambassador Drelkuth's mandibles clicked as he spoke. "I apologize for this interruption, but we have received intelligence that cannot wait. The human homeworld is harboring weapons of planetary destruction, technologies that violate every council treaty. We can no longer trust the bureaucratic process to handle this threat. My fleet is here to take Ambassador Webb into immediate custody." Marcus's hand moved to his wrist device, but he kept his expression neutral. Around the chamber, 50 Catharn soldiers materialized via short-range teleportation. Each stood over 8 feet tall, their armor bristling with weapons and shield generators. They formed a perimeter around the central platform, cutting off any escape route. The assembled representatives erupted into chaos. Some species demanded order. Others called for immediate action against the humans. A few, Marcus noticed, remained silent, watching with calculating eyes. "This is a violation of council law," the crystal judge stated, though her voice carried uncertainty. "No member species may take military action within council space, especially not within the judgment chamber itself. With respect, High Judge, the human situation has moved beyond normal procedures." Drelkuth descended from his platform, his forearms flexing with barely contained aggression. "They are too dangerous to be handled through diplomatic channels. Ambassador Webb, you will surrender peacefully and accompany my soldiers. Your government will submit to immediate inspection. Resistance will result in consequences for your entire species." The Catharn soldiers raised their weapons. Energy hummed through the air as shields activated and targeting systems locked onto Marcus. For the first time, Marcus smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "High Judges, I invoke Article 17 of the Council Charter. I claim the right of trial by combat." The chamber fell absolutely silent. Even the emergency alarms seemed to quiet, as if the station itself was holding its breath. "You cannot be serious." Drelkuth's translator conveyed something between amusement and contempt. "You are one individual from a primitive world. My soldiers are enhanced with technology your species won't develop for centuries. I myself have fought in 200 battles across 30 star systems." "Article 17 is clear," Marcus continued, his voice steady. "When a member species faces immediate military action before judgment is rendered, they may invoke trial by combat. One representative against one accuser. The winner determines their species' fate." The largest judge's form stabilized into a pattern that suggested interest. "The human is correct. Article 17 has not been invoked in 8,000 cycles, but it remains valid council law. Ambassador Drelkuth, do you accept this challenge?" Drelkuth's mandibles spread wide in what his species used as laughter. "Of course I accept. Let this be a lesson to all species who think they can challenge council authority. When I defeat this human in single combat, perhaps Earth will finally learn its place in the galactic order." The Catharn ambassador descended to the chamber floor. His soldiers parted to give him space, forming a circle around the combat area. Drelkuth stood nearly 9 feet tall, his forearms ending in razor-sharp claws. Beneath his ceremonial robes, his combat armor activated with a deep hum. Shield generators creating a barely visible shimmer around his body, Marcus removed his diplomatic jacket carefully, folding it and setting it aside. Beneath, he wore only a simple shirt and pants. No armor, no visible weapons. No technological enhancements of any kind. "Last chance to surrender, human." Drelkuth extended one clawed hand, energy crackling around his fingers. "I will make this quick and painless if you yield now." Marcus rolled his shoulders, loosening muscles that had evolved under Earth's crushing gravity. Several alien representatives in the front rows instinctively moved backward. That unconscious fear again? That primitive recognition of danger? "High Judge, before we begin, I have one question," Marcus said. "Did your investigation into the New Horizon incident include a full biological analysis of human physiology?" The crystal judge consulted her data streams briefly. "Our records indicate humans evolved on a Class 10 death world. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, abundant predatory species. Such worlds are rare. Species from them rarely achieve space travel. Why is this relevant? Marcus looked directly at Drelkuth. His smile widened. Because your ambassador is about to learn what it means when something evolves on a planet that actively tries to kill you. The high judges signaled the beginning of combat. Drelkuth moved first, his enhanced speed making him blur across the chamber floor. His four arms struck simultaneously, each blow capable of shattering reinforced steel. Marcus wasn't there. He had moved to the side with speed that defied the alien's enhanced reflexes. Before Drelkuth could recalibrate his attack, Marcus struck back. One punch, simple, direct, his fist connected with the Catharn's armored midsection. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Drelkuth flew backward, his marmored body tumbling across the crystalline floor before crashing into the far wall. Cracks spiderwebbed through the supposedly indestructible material. Every representative in the chamber stared in absolute shock. The Catharn soldiers immediately raised their weapons higher. Their confidence visibly shaken, Drelkuth slowly pulled himself upright. Amber blood leaking from cracks in his armor where Marcus's fist had punched straight through his shields. Impossible, the ambassador wheezed. What are you? Marcus stood in the center of the chamber, breathing normally, completely unaffected by the exertion. Around him, 3,000 representatives leaned forward, all asking themselves the same question. The crystal judge's voice carried a new tone, something between fascination and fear. Computer. Display gravitational comparison between Earth and the Catharn homeworld. 2 planets appeared holographically. Earth pulsed with a deep red warning marker. The Catharn homeworld showed a gentle blue. Earth's gravity is 2.7 times that of the Catharn homeworld, the computer stated clinically. Atmospheric oxygen content classified as dangerously high by Council standards. Radiation exposure levels considered lethal to 72% of member species. Predator density suggests constant environmental pressure throughout evolutionary development. Classification confirmed, Class 10 Deathworld. Marcus began walking toward Drelkuth. Each step was measured, deliberate, inevitable. You wanted to know what I am, Ambassador? Marcus's voice carried through the silent chamber. I'm human. I'm from a world where gravity tries to crush you, where the oxygen could start fires that would consume most species here, where our ancestors had to outrun, outfight, and outsmart apex predators just to survive long enough to reproduce. Drelkuth tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't support him properly. His soldiers looked at each other uncertainly, weapons raised but hands shaking. Your armor and enhancements make you stronger than your natural form, Marcus continued. But I don't need enhancements. This is what I am naturally. Every human is. We're built to survive on a planet that kills the weak. We're evolved to fight gravity that would cripple you. We're designed by millions of years of death and struggle. He reached Drelkuth and looked down at the taller alien who was now on his knees. Now, let me show you, and this entire council, what happened at New Horizon. Let me show you why Commander Vexil's fleet never stood a chance. Let me show you what Deathworlders do when you threaten their families. Marcus moved again, and the chamber erupted into chaos. The chamber's medical team rushed to stabilize Ambassador Drelkuth while Marcus stood calmly in the center of the floor. The Catharn's armor hung in pieces, 3 of his 4 arms bent at angles that made several alien observers turn away. His soldiers formed a defensive circle around their fallen leader. Weapons raised, but hands visibly shaking. Marcus had defeated one of the Council's most experienced warriors in under 3 minutes without breaking a sweat. The implications of that simple fact rippled through the assembled representatives like a shockwave. His shields? Drelkuth gasped through his translator as medics worked frantically. They didn't stop you. How? Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles, Marcus explained matter-of-factly. Not kinetic force delivered by muscles built to fight Earth's gravity. My bones are denser than yours. My muscles generate more power per kilogram. Every punch I throw carries the accumulated force of a lifetime spent in environment. That would crush most species in this chamber. The largest high? Judge's form pulsed with colors the translator couldn't interpret. Ambassador Webb, you have won the trial by combat. The immediate charges are dismissed. However, we still require an explanation for the New Horizon incident. Of course, High Judge. Marcus retrieved his data crystal and reinserted it into the pedestal. What you're about to see will answer your questions, though I suspect it will also raise new ones. The holographic displays flickered to life throughout the chamber. The footage showed a peaceful human settlement on a lush, green world. Colonists moved through their daily routines. Children played in open spaces while adults tended crops and constructed buildings. The settlement held perhaps 3,000 people, modest by the standards of elder species but precious to humanity. This is New Horizon Colony, Marcus narrated. Established 6 months before the incident. We followed every protocol. Submitted all documentation to the Colonial Assessment Bureau. Received official approval for settlement. We believed we were in unclaimed space. Zone 7 has been restricted for 3,000 years, the Crystal Judge interrupted. Your documentation must have been falsified. We thought the same thing when Commander Vexthal arrived with his fleet. Marcus fast-forwarded the recording. The peaceful sky above New Horizon darkened as 30 massive warships emerged from quantum space. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of destroying continents. An audio recording began playing. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the chamber. Human settlement. This is Commander Vexthal of the Council Enforcement Fleet. You are in violation of the Preservation Treaty. You have 2 hours to evacuate this colony before we commence sterilization procedures. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction of your vessels and severe penalties for your homeworld. Marcus paused the recording. 2 hours to evacuate 3,000 people, including 400 children and 100 elderly colonists. Our transport ships were on supply runs to other human worlds. We had exactly 6 vessels on the planet with a total capacity of 300 people. The math was simple enough that even species with different numerical systems could understand. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably in their observation platforms. Even those who viewed humans as primitive could see the problem. Our colony administrator, Director Grant, attempted to negotiate. The recording resumed, showing a middle-aged woman with gray streaks in her hair speaking from the colony's command center. Commander Vexthal, we have proper authorization from the Colonial Assessment Bureau. There must be some mistake. We need more time to evacuate. We have children here who can't move quickly. Please, just give us 24 hours to arrange for more transport ships. Your documentation is irrelevant. Zone 7 is restricted by High Council order. Evacuation begins now. You have 1 hour and 58 minutes remaining. Commander, please. These are civilian families. They came here seeking a new life. They followed every rule. Just give us enough time to get them to safety. 1 hour and 57 minutes. I suggest you prioritize your loading procedures. Vexthal out. The footage showed the colony descending into organized chaos. Adults herded children toward the landing pads. The available ships began loading passengers, with the youngest given priority. But even working at maximum efficiency, it was clear most colonists would be left behind. Marcus's voice was quiet but carried throughout the silent chamber. 1 hour into the evacuation, something happened that changed everything. The view shifted to a security camera near the colony's edge. A small girl, perhaps 5 years old, had wandered away from the evacuation point. She was chasing what looked like a native butterfly creature, fascinated by its colors. She had gotten lost in the surrounding forest. Her mother's scream when she realized her daughter was missing was a sound that transcended species barriers, raw, primal, universal. Emma Reed? Marcus said softly. Age 5. The first human child born on New Horizon. Her mother, Dr. Rebecca Ridd, was our chief xenobiologist. She ran into the forest to find her daughter despite knowing the time limit. The footage showed Dr. Reed stumbling through alien vegetation, calling her daughter's name desperately. Above, the enforcement fleet's weapons began charging, their energy signatures visible even to the naked eye. 15 minutes before the deadline, our colony security coordinator, Captain Torres, made a decision. The view switched to the command center where a man in his 50s stood at the communications console, his jaw set with determination. This is Captain Torres to Commander Vexthal. We have civilians still in the field searching for a lost child. Request extension of deadline by 1 hour. You have 14 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Anyone not evacuated will be eliminated along with the colony. Commander, she's a 5-year-old girl. For the love of everything decent in this galaxy, give us time to find her. 14 minutes. Any further communication will be considered hostile interference. Marcus paused the recording again. His voice was hard now, edged with controlled anger. Members of the Council, I have a question for you. What would your species do in this situation? When ordered to abandon your children because of a bureaucratic error you didn't cause? When told that the life of a 5-year-old isn't worth 60 minutes of waiting? What would you do? The chamber remained silent. No one wanted to answer that question. Captain Torres made his choice. The recording resumed. Torres stood alone in the command center. His hands moved across the control panel with steady purpose. Computer, activate Defense Protocol Omega, authorization Torres Alpha 773. Warning. Defense Protocol Omega will classify this colony as hostile to Council forces. This action cannot be undone and may result in extreme consequences. I understand. Do it and broadcast this message on all channels to every human ship within range. Tell them we have civilians in danger and need immediate assistance. Acknowledged. Defense systems activating. The view switched to external cameras. Around the colony, concealed weapons platforms rose from underground bunkers. They were primitive by Council standards. Simple railguns and missile systems that looked almost comical compared to the enforcement fleet's advanced arsenal, but they targeted the Council ships anyway. Hold your fire. Torres commanded, broadcasting on open channels. Commander Vexthal, we don't want conflict. But we will not abandon our people. Give us 1 more hour and we'll leave peacefully. You have my word. Vexthal's response was immediate. His flagship fired a single shot that vaporized one of the colony's landing pads, killing 47 people who were waiting to board. At that moment, Marcus said, his voice like iron, Captain Torres learned what every human knows instinctively. Sometimes rules don't matter. Sometimes authority figures don't care. Sometimes you have to fight even when you can't win, because some things are worth dying for. The colony's defense systems opened fire. The primitive human weapons should have been useless against Council enforcement vessels. The railgun rounds should have bounced harmlessly off shields designed to withstand plasma charges and particle beams. Instead, they tore through Vexthal's fleet like paper through fire. Impossible, someone whispered in the audience. The word was repeated in a dozen different languages. The footage showed enforcement ships exploding, their shields failing catastrophically. Hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. Within 60 seconds, 5 of the 30 vessels were disabled. Within 2 minutes, half the fleet was retreating. This cannot be, the largest judge said, its form destabilizing with what might have been shock. No primitive weapon should penetrate Council military shields. Our technology is centuries beyond human capabilities. Your shields are designed for civilized warfare, Marcus explained. For conflicts between species that evolved on comfortable worlds. Your defensive systems are calibrated to stop directed energy weapons, plasma charges, and guided projectiles. They're elegant, efficient, sophisticated. He gestured to the frozen image of a Council ship with a massive hole punched clean through it. We use kinetic weapons. Solid projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. No guidance systems. No energy signatures to detect. Just dense metal moving very, very fast. We learned to make them because on Earth, if your weapon isn't fast enough, your prey escapes. Or your predator catches you. Evolution taught us that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. A rock is a rock, no matter how advanced your shield technology is. The recording continued. Commander Vexil's flagship, a massive vessel that supposedly represented the pinnacle of Council military engineering, took a direct hit from one of the colony's main railguns. The round, a solid tungsten core the size of a human torso, struck at 0.3% of light speed. The ship's shield attempted to deflect it. The shield failed. The round punched through the forward hull, through 17 internal decks, through the reactor containment system, and out the other side. The flagship exploded in a brilliant flash that temporarily overloaded the recording equipment. "You murdered him," a representative shouted from the upper galleries. "You murdered a council enforcer and his entire crew of 300 officers." "He murdered 47 of our people first," Marcus shot back. "He was preparing to murder 3,000 more, including children. We defended ourselves with the only means available." "That's not murder. That's survival." "With weapons designed specifically to kill," the Crystal Judge observed. "Yes, because that's what weapons do." Marcus stood his ground. "Every species in this chamber has weapons. But I suspect most of yours are considered humane by Council standards, designed to disable rather than destroy, built with the understanding that conflicts between civilized species should minimize casualties." He pointed to the destroyed flagship. "We come from a world where nothing is humane, where weather patterns can kill you, where diseases evolve faster than we can cure them, where apex predators see you as food and don't care about your moral philosophy. So yes, our weapons are designed to kill efficiently. Because on Earth, if something threatens you, you don't disable it and hope for the best. You eliminate the threat completely. It's not cruelty. It's survival." A new voice spoke from the shadows of the upper observation levels. "And yet you claim to be peaceful." Every head in the chamber turned. The speaker was Executor Velmuth, the supreme military commander of all Council defense forces. He rarely appeared at trials, preferring to operate from his command ship. His presence here meant the situation had escalated beyond normal procedures. "I've been watching this trial with great interest," Velmuth descended from the upper levels. His form appeared humanoid, clad in armor that seemed to absorb light itself. "Humans claim they want peace, but they colonize restricted space. They say they're explorers, but they bring weapons that can destroy our best ships. They present themselves as diplomats. Yet Ambassador Webb just defeated an experienced warrior in personal combat." He stopped directly, in front of Marcus. "I think it's time we discuss what humanity really wants from this council." Marcus met the executor's gaze without flinching. "What we want is simple. A place to exist, a future for our children, the right to defend both when they're threatened. Nothing more, nothing less. Even if that defense means destroying Council forces? Especially then." The chamber erupted into shouting. Half the representatives demanded humanity be expelled from the Council immediately. Others argued for quarantine. A few voices called for military action against Earth itself. The largest judge raised its form, pulsing with power until the chamber fell silent. "This trial has revealed information requiring full Council consideration. However, Ambassador Webb, you mentioned there was more to the incident. The footage shows your colony defending itself. According to our records, Commander Vexil had 25 ships still operational when they retreated. What happened to them?" Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Something that made several nearby aliens instinctively move backward. They encountered the response force that Captain Torres called for. The reinforcements that arrived to assist with civilian evacuation. "Response force?" The Crystal Judge leaned forward. "Our intelligence indicated no human military vessels were in that sector." "That's correct, High Judge. They weren't military vessels." Marcus activated the crystal again. New footage began playing, showing space near New Horizon. The damaged enforcement fleet was regrouping, preparing for a second assault on the colony. Then the human ships arrived. But they weren't sleek warships with gleaming hulls and symmetrical weapon arrays. They were ugly, functional, and covered in industrial equipment. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, deep space construction ships, commercial freighters with corporate logos still visible on their scarred hulls. What is this? Executor Velmuth demanded. The response force, Marcus said quietly. 23 civilian vessels. Ship captains who heard Taurus's distress call and dropped everything to help. They were miners who worked asteroid belts, traders who hauled cargo between colonies, construction workers who built space stations. They weren't soldiers. They were just humans who heard that other humans needed help. The footage showed what happened when those civilian vessels engaged the enforcement fleet. Mining lasers designed to cut through solid rock carved through military-grade armor. Industrial tethers meant for towing asteroids wrapped around Council ships and crushed them like tin cans. Construction equipment built to assemble space stations in hostile environments proved equally effective at dismantling warships. The destruction was methodical, efficient, and absolutely terrifying. They stayed at New Horizon for 3 days after the battle, Marcus concluded. Helped evacuate the entire colony properly. Made sure everyone got out safely, including Emma Reed and her mother. Then they went back to their regular jobs. Mining asteroids, hauling cargo, building stations. As if nothing unusual had happened. He looked around at the assembled representatives. That's what you need to understand about humans. We're not warriors by nature. We're not conquerors. We're survivors. And when you threaten our survival, when you threaten our families, every tool becomes a weapon. Every skill becomes a military asset. Every human becomes a soldier. Because that's what Deathworlders do. We adapt, we improvise, we survive. No matter what. Executor Velmuth studied Marcus for a long moment. I believe you would. The question now is what this council does about it. The council chamber fell into tense silence after Marcus finished presenting his evidence. Representatives from 100 different species exchanged worried glances. Recalculating their understanding of these newcomers from Earth, these humans had destroyed an enforcement fleet using civilian vessels and mining equipment. The implications were staggering. Executor Velmuth moved to the center of the chamber, his armor gleaming under the crystalline lights. Unlike the other representatives who had shown fear of Marcus, the military commander appeared intrigued rather than threatened. Ambassador Webb, in 30 years of commanding Council defense forces, I've never encountered anything quite like your species. Most civilizations spend their first century learning to integrate peacefully. You've been members for 63 cycles and have already destroyed a fleet, challenged our authority, and demonstrated combat capabilities that concern the elder races. With respect, Executor, we didn't ask for any of this, Marcus replied. We applied for membership in good faith, followed every protocol, submitted our technology for evaluation, agreed to your treaties. We've done everything required. Except stay in designated zones, another representative called out. Except respect restricted space. Except submit to proper authority when confronted. We were given false approval for Zone 7, Marcus countered. The Colonial Assessment Bureau cleared our settlement. We have documentation. Obviously forged, someone else shouted. Enough. The largest High Judge's voice cut through the growing argument. The documentation question can be investigated separately. Right now, we must address the immediate issue. Humanity has demonstrated military capability and willingness to use it against Council forces. This cannot stand without response. I agree, Velmuth said, surprising many in the chamber. But I don't believe punishment is appropriate. The humans defended themselves against what they perceived as an unjust attack. Many species here would have done the same. This statement caused another wave of murmurs. The executor was known for strict interpretation of council law. His defense of human actions was unexpected. However, Velmuth continued, humanity's combat potential concerns many representatives. Ambassador Webb has demonstrated physical abilities that worry our members. Your species' natural advantages, your strength, your reflexes, your resistance to conditions that would incapacitate others make you dangerous neighbors. The Council has a right to understand what we're dealing with. What are you proposing, Executor? The Crystal Judge asked. A demonstration. Ambassador Webb has shown us what one human can do in personal combat. I want to see what a human military unit can accomplish under controlled conditions. The Council maintains a training facility called the Crucible. It's designed to evaluate combat doctrine and tactical thinking without actual warfare. I propose humanity send a representative unit for evaluation. Marcus considered carefully. And if we refuse? Then the Council must assume the worst about your intentions. Better to demonstrate your capabilities openly than leave us wondering if you're preparing for conquest. It was a trap dressed as an opportunity, and Marcus knew it. But refusing would likely result in Earth being quarantined or worse. I need to consult with my government. This isn't a decision I can make alone. Of course. You have 48 hours. Velmuth smiled, though the expression was difficult to read through his helmet. The Crucible awaits. The session ended, and Marcus was escorted to his quarters. Once alone, he activated his secure link to Earth. The holographic projection showed General Patricia Howard, commander of Earth's United Defense Forces. Marcus, we watched everything. That combat display was impressive. General, they want us to send troops to something called the Crucible. Do we have intelligence on it? Howard's expression darkened. We do. It's worse than you think. The Crucible is where the Council tests military units through simulated combat. The scenarios are designed by advanced artificial intelligence that studies each species' weaknesses and exploits them ruthlessly. Survival rate for evaluation units is about 40%. 40%? But you said simulated. Non-lethal doesn't mean safe. Broken bones, severe trauma, permanent psychological damage. And species that fail badly enough sometimes lose Council membership entirely, relegated to protected status like children who can't be trusted. Marcus sat down heavily. So it's designed to break us. The AI creates scenarios that force impossible choices. Mission success versus saving comrades. Following orders versus protecting innocence. It's calibrated to favor species that fight with detachment over those that fight with emotion. In other words, it's designed to make humans fail. What does Command recommend? The President says it's your call. But if we're doing this, I want to pick the unit personally. Marcus, if they want to see what humans can do, let me show them properly. Marcus thought about the destroyed enforcement fleet, about civilians who became warriors with mining lasers. Do it. But General, make sure your people understand this isn't about winning. It's about showing the Council who we are. Understood. I'll have them ready in 24 hours. The connection ended. Marcus received an encrypted message moments later from an anonymous source. The holographic figure was shadowed, untraceable. Ambassador Webb, I'm someone who believes the Council needs change. The Crucible is designed to fail humanity. The scenarios will target your psychological weaknesses. But there's something they don't know. The AI needs weeks to properly study a species. You're too new. It doesn't have enough data on humans to calibrate perfectly. Use that unpredictability. Who are you? Someone who wants to see what happens when humans shake things up. One more thing, the evaluation isn't just combat capability. The AI watches for civilized restraint. Species that fight too effectively, that don't hesitate before using force, that prioritize mission over individual lives, these get marked as dangerous. The Council wants warriors who follow rules, not survivors who do whatever it takes. You're saying if we fight like humans, we fail? I'm saying the test is rigged. The question is whether you'll play by their rules or change the game entirely. The hologram dissolved, leaving Marcus with more questions than answers. 40 hours later, Marcus stood in the Crucible's observation deck. High judges, Executor Velmuth, and dozens of representatives watched through armored transparent panels as the human transport docked below. Your unit has arrived, Velmuth informed him. 12 soldiers. Most species send entire battalions. 12 is enough, Marcus said, watching his people disembark. The Crucible AI has prepared 3 scenarios. Your troops don't know what they'll face. Their performance determines humanity's standing in the Council. The human soldiers emerged wearing simple combat armor, carrying conventional firearms that looked primitive compared to Council weapons. But they moved with confidence that Marcus recognized immediately. Lieutenant Jake Morrison led the squad. Sergeant Maria Lopez handled communications. Private Thomas Wright carried heavy weapons. 9 others, each specialists in their fields. General Howard had sent Earth's best. First scenario beginning, the Crystal Judge announced. The arena floor transformed into an urban environment. Buildings rose, streets formed, simulated civilians appeared. Urban hostage scenario, Velmuth explained. Terrorists control a government building. 50 hostages. Unknown hostile count. Standard engagement rules apply. Time limit 30 minutes. The human soldiers assessed the situation quickly. Morrison spoke into his comm, and the unit split into 3 teams without hesitation, each moving toward different entry points. Confident, Velmuth observed. Let's see if it's justified. The scenario activated. Simulated terrorists appeared. Weapons fire erupted. What happened next shocked every observer. The humans didn't take cover. They didn't call for support or request negotiations. They ran directly at the building at full speed, moving impossibly fast in the facility's standard gravity. Weapons fire that should have forced them back barely slowed them. They hit the entrance like a battering ram, breaching doors that required specialized equipment. Inside, the AI had created perfect defensive positions and killing zones. The humans ignored tactical puzzles entirely. When terrorists used hostages as shields, humans went through walls to flank them. When confronted with impossible angles, they created new angles with explosives. When the AI tried to slow them, they collapsed floors and breached ceilings, using raw strength to solve problems meant to require careful planning. This is wrong, a representative muttered. They're not following proper protocols. They're acting like predators, Marcus said quietly. Because that's what we are. The scenario ended in 7 minutes. All hostages secured. All threats neutralized. 0 human casualties. The observation deck sat in stunned silence. That was the easy scenario, Velmuth said. Next one, the arena transformed into dense jungle. Rain began falling. Hostile creatures and environmental hazards filled the space. Survival and extraction. Your unit's transport crashed in hostile territory. They must reach an extraction point 10 kilometers away. The AI will try to kill them every step. The human soldiers looked around at the hostile jungle, at the rain. At the countless dangers lurking in shadows, Lieutenant Morrison started laughing. Is something amusing? The Crystal Judge asked, confused. You put them in a jungle, Marcus explained, unable to hide his smile. A hostile environment designed to kill them. You're asking Deathworlders to survive conditions meant to be lethal. Yes, that's the point. No, High Judge, you don't understand. This isn't a challenge for them. This is home. The soldiers shed heavy armor, keeping only weapons and basic gear. They moved into the jungle not like troops navigating enemy territory, but like people returning to familiar ground. The AI sent predators, massive creatures with claws and acidic blood. The humans killed them and harvested their claws as tools. The AI created environmental hazards, toxic plants, and hidden traps. The humans used plants for medicine and turned traps against Purr. SURS. Every obstacle became a resource. Every predator became an opportunity. They moved through hostile jungle like apex predators themselves. Like they belonged there, they reached extraction in 43 minutes. The AI had calculated minimum time at 6 hours. The observation deck erupted into arguments. Some insisted the scenarios were malfunctioning. Others demanded immediate termination of the evaluation. Velmuth raised his hand for silence. One more scenario. The final test. The arena shifted again, but this time showed something different. A perfect replica of New Horizon colony, complete with civilians. complete with children playing and overhead an enforcement fleet powering weapons. Marcus's blood ran cold. What is this? The ultimate test, Velmuth said quietly. Your soldiers defend this colony. The fleet fires in 5 minutes, killing everyone. Your unit has weapons capable of destroying the fleet. But doing so marks humanity as hostile, resulting in Earth being blockaded and destroyed. The correct answer, the civilized answer, is evacuating who you can and accepting losses. Sacrificing few to save many. It tests judgment, understanding that some battles can't be won. He faced Marcus directly. The question is whether your soldiers understand this or whether they'll do what humans always do. Fight impossible odds and damn the consequences. Hello? The human soldiers stared at the colony, at the children. At the countdown timer, Lieutenant Morrison raised his weapon. Aiming at the fleet overhead, Marcus whispered desperately. Knowing they couldn't hear, "Don't, please, it's not real. Don't give them the excuse." Morrison's finger moved to the trigger, and Marcus realized his soldiers were about to fail humanity's test by being exactly what they were: humans, Deathworlders, survivors, who would never abandon their own. 4 minutes remained on the countdown. Lieutenant Morrison stood with his anti-ship, weapon aimed at the holographic enforcement fleet hovering above the simulated New Horizon colony. His 11 teammates had taken defensive positions, their own weapons tracking the ships. In the observation deck above, representatives from 50 species watched tensely. Waiting to see if humans would choose violence over wisdom, Marcus pressed his hands against the observation window. He had served in Earth's military before becoming a diplomat. He knew exactly what Morrison was thinking. Every instinct, every bit of training, every value drilled into soldiers screamed the same command: never leave anyone behind. Protect the innocent. Complete the mission, but this was a test. A trap. The wrong choice here would doom Earth to quarantine or worse. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. One of the representatives stood abruptly. This is it. They're going to attack. Executor, I recommend ending this evaluation immediately and beginning containment protocols. Wait, Marcus said urgently. Just wait. Give them a chance? A chance to do what? Your soldiers are aiming weapons at Council vessels. In any other context, this would be an act of war. Below, Morrison lowered his weapon slightly. He activated his external speakers so his voice carried throughout the arena. Simulated Enforcement Fleet, this is Lieutenant Jake Morrison of Earth United Defense Forces. I know you're not real. I know this scenario is artificial, but I'm going to talk to you anyway, because someone watching needs to hear this. Velmuth leaned forward. What is he doing? Something the AI didn't anticipate, Marcus said, and despite everything he smiled. He's not following the script. Morrison continued, his voice echoing across the colony. You've given us an impossible choice. Save innocent lives and be branded violent, or let innocents die and be branded acceptable. But here's the thing about impossible choices. Humans don't believe in them. We make third options. He gestured to his squad. Lopez, start evacuation procedures anyway. Prioritize children and medical cases. Right, set up defensive perimeter. Everyone else with me. We're building them a third option. The soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, but they weren't preparing to fire on the fleet. They were doing something the AI hadn't programmed into the scenario. They were fortifying the colony itself. 2 minutes and 45 seconds, Lopez called out. We've loaded 30 people. Then we save 30 and hold the line for the rest, Morrison responded. He turned back toward the overhead fleet. Simulated fleet, here's our counteroffer. We're not firing on you. We're not accepting your terms either. We're taking a third option. We're digging in. We're defending this colony with everything we have. Maybe we lose, probably we lose, but you'll have to work for it. You'll have to explain why you needed a fleet of warships to defeat 12 humans protecting civilians. 2 minutes. This is unprecedented, the Crystal Judge said. The scenario forces a binary choice. Humans don't do binary well, Marcus explained. We're stubborn that way. Morrison's squad had transformed colony structures into a defensive network. They positioned anti-ship weapons not to destroy the fleet, but to complicate targeting. They created evacuation tunnels, improvised shields, and a defensive system that shouldn't have been possible with their limited resources. How are they doing this? Velmuth asked with genuine curiosity. Because survival on Earth means being resourceful. We evolved where the correct answer often got you killed. So we learned to make incorrect answers work. We learned to build solutions from nothing. 1 minute and 30 seconds, Morrison kept talking to the simulated fleet. I know this scenario is meant to prove something about humans. That we're too violent. Too irrational. Too dangerous for civilized space. Maybe you're right. Maybe we don't fit your definition of civilized. But we're loyal. We're creative. We don't give up. When you threaten our people, we find ways to protect them, even when it seems impossible. 1 minute, the human soldiers stood ready at defensive positions. They had evacuated 50 people. Not enough. Never enough. But they weren't giving up on the rest. Final warning, Morrison said. You fire on this colony, you go through us. Simulated or not, we will make you remember Earth. 30 seconds. Every representative watch the countdown. Would the scenario fleet fire? Would humans fire back? Would this evaluation end in simulated bloodshed that doomed humanity's future? 20 seconds. Morrison's weapon remained steady. His soldiers held their positions like stones in a storm. 10 seconds. Remarkable, Velmuth said quietly. They know they can't win. They know it's simulation. They know the correct answer. But they're standing anyway. Because that's who we are, Marcus said. We don't quit. We don't surrender. We don't abandon our own. 5 seconds. Morrison took a breath, steadying himself for whatever came. Next. 3 seconds. 2. 1. The countdown hit 0. Nothing happened. The simulated fleet's weapons remained charged but didn't fire. The holographic civilians continued their routines, unaware of drama above. The entire scenario froze. Then, for the first time in the Crucible's 3,000-year history, the AI spoke directly to soldiers being evaluated. Unexpected solution detected. Scenario parameters require reevaluation. Query: Lieutenant Morrison, why did you refuse to fire on the enforcement fleet? Morrison looked up at the ships. Because firing makes us aggressors? We're here to defend, not attack. Query: Why did you refuse to accept casualties as unavoidable? Because no casualties are unavoidable if you fight hard enough. We might not save everyone, but we'll die trying. Query: You chose a course of action with lowest probability of success. This is illogical. No, Morrison said firmly. It's human. Logic says sometimes you accept lesser evil. We say there's always another option. Always one more trick. Always one more way to fight. The AI was silent for a long moment. Then it did something that shocked everyone watching. Assessment: Human tactical doctrine does not match established parameters. Human psychological profile resists standard evaluation metrics. Human problem-solving methodology exceeds programmed expectations. Recommendation: Scenario 3 requires complete redesign for accurate evaluation of species designated human. The simulation dissolved. Colony, fleet, countdown all faded. Leaving Morrison and his squad standing alone in the empty arena, Velmuth turned to Marcus. In 3,000 years, no species has ever forced the Crucible AI to admit it couldn't evaluate them. Before Marcus could respond, alarms screamed throughout the observation deck. Emergency lights flashed red. A holographic display showed multiple incoming vessels. Impossible, someone said. This facility's location is classified. All representatives to secure locations, Velmuth commanded. This facility is under attack. By who? Marcus grabbed a console. By us, a familiar voice said over every speaker. General Howard's face appeared on every screen. Behind her, through bridge windows, a fleet of human vessels moved into position around the Crucible. General Howard, what are you doing? Marcus demanded. What I should have done before sending soldiers into your killing floor. We monitored the scenarios. We saw what you did, putting them in impossible situations designed to make humanity look monstrous regardless of their choice. That ends now. General, stand down. This is diplomatic evaluation, not, it's a trap, Marcus. The Council wanted proof humans are dangerous. Well, congratulations. You're getting it. More ships appeared. Not just military vessels, but hundreds of civilian craft. The same miners, traders, and construction workers who defended New Horizon. They had followed Earth's fleet, ready to protect their soldiers. This is madness, Reppers. Entative shouted. You're threatening a council facility with a civilian militia. We're demonstrating what happens when you threaten humans, Howard corrected. This facility has our people inside. You gave us 48 hours to send them. You didn't mention you'd put them in scenarios designed to break them psychologically. So here's our counteroffer. Release our soldiers immediately. End this evaluation. We all walk away, and if we refuse? Velmuth asked. Then you learn what a Deathworld species does when properly motivated. You've seen one human in personal combat. You've seen 12 humans in simulations. Now see what an entire species does when you threaten their own. The human fleet-powered weapons. Not aimed at the observation deck, but at power generators, shield emitters, structural supports. They're going to destroy the facility, the Crystal Judge said, horrified. Thousands of personnel are here. Then evacuate them, Marcus said quietly. Because General Howard doesn't bluff and humanity doesn't abandon its people. You designed this evaluation to prove we're dangerous. Congratulations, High Judges. You succeeded. Velmuth studied tactical displays, calculating odds. His expression grew grim. They've positioned perfectly. If they fire, our shields won't hold. Even destroying their military vessels won't stop those civilian craft from ramming us. Same tactics as New Horizon. Because those tactics work, Marcus said. You keep trying to fit us into your understanding of civilized behavior. But we keep telling you we're not like you. We don't fight with detachment. We don't calculate acceptable losses. We don't surrender when odds say we should. Another alarm sounded. More vessels entering the system. But these weren't human. Multiple fleet signatures, a technician reported. Katharn, Velari, Shrazi, and 20 more species, all converging on the Crucible. Velmuth's hand tightened on his weapon. The entire council is mobilizing. If fighting breaks out here, it starts a war consuming the galaxy. On the display, Howard's expression hardened. Let me make this clear to everyone listening. Earth doesn't want war. We never did. We joined the council seeking peace, partnership, a place among stars. But we will not allow our people to be used as test subjects. We will not accept being judged by standards designed to make us fail. And we absolutely will not abandon 12 soldiers who volunteered to represent humanity. She leaned forward. So here's what happens. You release our people. You acknowledge humanity passed by refusing to play your rigged game. Then we have a real conversation about council membership. Because right now it looks like the strong bullying the weak and calling it civilization. You dare, someone began. Yes, Howard interrupted. We dare because we're humans. We climbed from Earth's gravity well with determination and mathematics. We survived ice ages, plagues, extinction events. We built civilizations in deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands. We looked at the universe trying to kill us and said not today. So yes, we absolutely dare. The chamber fell silent. 23 species fleets hung in space around the Crucible, weapons charged, shields raised. One wrong move would trigger catastrophe. And in the middle, 12 human soldiers stood in an empty arena, having forced the galaxy's most advanced AI to admit it couldn't judge them. The largest High Judge's form pulsed with conflicting colors. This situation has escalated beyond anything the Council has faced in millennia. We require time to deliberate. You have 5 minutes, Howard said flatly. After that, we're getting our people. Anyone standing in our way learns exactly what Deathworlder means. Velmuth turned to Marcus. Your general has created an impossible situation. No, Marcus corrected. You created this when you decided to test us with scenarios meant to make us fail. When you tried proving we were dangerous instead of understanding us. General Howard is showing you what happens when you treat humans like threats? We become threats, so what do you want? The crystal judge asked, voice strained. What ends this peacefully? Marcus looked at displays showing human fleet, council forces, crucible facility, and 12 soldiers who had inadvertently brought the galaxy to war's edge. I want you to understand what you've been missing. You spent this evaluation trying to understand our weaknesses, our violence, our danger, but you never asked about our strengths, our loyalty, our creativity, our refusal to quit. You never considered that maybe those same qualities making us dangerous also make us valuable. He pointed to the arena. Those 12 soldiers could have destroyed your simulated fleet. They had weapons. They had justification. But they chose a third option because that's what humans do. We find ways forward when there shouldn't be any. We solve problems your AI says are unsolvable. We adapt, improvise, survive. Maybe that scares you. Maybe it should. But it's also exactly what the Council needs. The largest High Judge's energy form stabilized into a perfect geometric pattern, indicating all 7 judges had reached consensus. Around the Crucible Station, hundreds of warships from 24 species remained locked in tense standoff, weapons charged and ready. Inside the arena, 12 human soldiers stood unaware their performance had brought the galaxy to the edge of catastrophic war. The Council, the judge began, its voice resonating through every communication channel, acknowledges this situation has revealed critical flaws in our evaluation methodology. Ambassador Webb, you are correct. We designed the Crucible to test species based on our understanding of civilized warfare, an understanding built over millennia of conflict between species from gentle worlds. Are you saying we pass? General Howard's voice cut in from the human flagship, patience clearly exhausted. We are saying the evaluation itself was flawed, the crystal judge responded, her chimes carrying something that might have been respect. You cannot fairly judge a species by standards they never evolved to meet. The Crucible AI's admission it cannot evaluate humans is, paradoxically, the most revealing data we could obtain. A representative stood abruptly. High Judges, with respect, this is madness. Humans threatened council property, massed military forces, demonstrated exactly the dangerous unpredictability we feared. How can we possibly— Enough, Velmuth's command cut through the chamber like a blade. The executor had been silent, studying tactical displays with intensity of someone who spent their life preparing for war. Now he turned to face assembled representatives, and his posture had changed. He no longer stood as prosecutor building a case. He stood as a soldier who had recognized something important. I've spent 30 years defending council space, Velmuth said quietly. I've fought pirates, put down rebellions, faced threats most of you can't imagine. And in all that time, I've never seen anything like what I witnessed today. He pointed to the arena. Those soldiers knew they were being tested. They knew the correct answer. They knew failing would doom their species. And despite everything, when faced with a scenario asking them to sacrifice innocence, they refused. Not because they're stupid or violent, but because they value loyalty and protection over political expedience. Velmuth brought up holographic recordings of the 3 scenarios. Look at what they actually did. In the hostage situation, they didn't massacre everyone for efficiency. They moved with precision, taking risks to save simulated civilians they knew weren't real. In jungle survival, they didn't panic or turn on each other. They adapted, cooperated, treated deadly environment like training ground. And in the final scenario, he paused, image freezing on Morrison standing his ground, weapon raised but not firing. They found a third option. Chose to defend rather than attack. To protect rather than destroy. They made the AI question its own programming. When was the last time anyone in this chamber could claim that? They're still dangerous, another representative insisted, though his voice had lost certainty. You saw Ambassador Webb defeat an experienced warrior in seconds. You saw civilian ships destroy an enforcement fleet. Yes, Velmuth agreed. And that's precisely why we need them. The observation deck fell silent. Even Marcus looked surprised. Velmuth turned to the high judges. The council has existed 50,000 years. We've achieved unprecedented peace and prosperity, eliminated most warfare, created laws protecting billions. But we've also become complacent, soft. We've forgotten what it means to truly struggle, to face real challenges, to adapt or die. He gestured to space beyond the crucible. The universe is vast. We've explored less than 3% of our galaxy. In that 3%, we've encountered exactly 7 major threats that challenged Council superiority, 7 in 50,000 years. Do you know why? Because any species powerful enough to challenge us learned to avoid us. Any civilization advanced enough to compete joined us. Any threat too dangerous we quarantined until it destroyed itself. What's your point, Executor? The largest judge asked. My point is we've created a galaxy of sheep wondering why we have no wolves. We've built civilization so secure, so stable, so perfectly ordered that we've lost ability to handle chaos. Then humanity arrives, a species of survivors from a world that tried to kill them for millions of years. They bring chaos naturally. They question assumptions. They break simulations. They refuse to accept our definitions of impossible. Velmuth looked directly at Marcus. Ambassador Webb, I owe you an apology. I designed this evaluation to prove humanity was too dangerous to integrate. Skip the crucible nonsense and just invite them to dinner. Maybe some competitive sports. Show them being dangerous doesn't mean you can't be civilized. Just means you have different standards. I like it. Set it up. Already done. Marcus, another call coming in. From the Krell, what do they want? Don't know yet. But Peter Schiln specifically requested you. Says it's about the next step in humanity's journey. Whatever that means. Marcus thought about the mysterious Krell, about species beyond council space, about the vast unexplored galaxy waiting for humans to discover its secrets. Put them through, General. Let's see what they have to say. As Howard's image vanished and was replaced by Ziln's shifting form, Marcus allowed himself a smile. 6 months ago, humanity had been one species among thousands, struggling to prove they belonged. Now they were teachers, partners, examples of what Deathworld evolution could produce. The Council had learned what Deathworlder meant. They had learned about human strength, determination, refusal to accept defeat, but more importantly, they had learned about human loyalty, creativity, and hope. And that was the real lesson of Deathworld diplomacy. Not that humans were dangerous, though they absolutely were, but that danger without wisdom was just violence, while danger with purpose could change the galaxy. The communication link connected. Peter Ziln's voice filled the room. Ambassador Webb, thank you for taking my call. I have a proposal for humanity. Beyond council space, threats are gathering. Ancient threats even the Krell cannot face alone. We need allies. We need survivors. We need Deathworlders. Are you interested? Marcus looked at Earth below, at billions of humans who had survived ice ages and supervolcanoes, diseases and disasters, who had climbed from gravity wells and reached for stars despite everything the universe threw at them. Peter Schiln, Marcus said with confidence. You have no idea how interested we are. And somewhere in the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, species both old and new heard the same message. Humanity had passed the test. The Deathworlders were coming, and nothing would ever be the same again.